So I have problems.
Recording in progress.
We are reconvening out of closed session where there is nothing to report out. Pledge of allegiance, please. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public presentations. This is the time for persons who wish to address the council on any matter not on this agenda and over which the council has jurisdiction. As such, a dialogue with the council or staff is not allowed under the Ralph M. Brown Act. Items requiring council actions not listed on this agenda may be placed on the next regular agenda for consideration if the council directs, unless a finding is made by at least 2/3 of the council that the item came up after the agenda was posted and is of an urgency nature requiring immediate action. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Any emails? Here? We will close public presentations. Is there anyone on the council who would like to remove an item from the consent calendar? I would.
Item 8, please.
Item 8. Oh, okay. Is there anyone in the?
Was that matter that was called the appointment of Corporal Landry as interim police chief?
No.
Okay, I'd like to pull that one, please.
Is there then a motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 on the consent calendar?
And 9.
And 9.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0. Well, I would do this in order, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go to the council pull items first. So item number 8. You want to do?
I want a little more clarification on what we're supporting here. It's very vague as to what allows the property owners to do and allow on the property without giving a whole lot about what they're going to do to protect the property.
Yeah. And I just have concerns too. I'd like to know where in our town this could happen, and where could it go. I'd like to know the time limits. When they say no impact camping, does that mean on a piece of property they can go out on the property? I mean, the picture makes it look like they can just go out on the property and camp anywhere. And I time, like I said, time limits. And as a city, if we can permit certain things or not, like the length of time, what they have to do as far as the bodies and, parking and I don't think there's enough information, and I almost feel like we're setting it up so the homeless that are sent to us could be on an urban or suburban, whatever, property, and that gets them out of the town. But that's just mine.
Okay, well, I am who asked the city manager to put this on here because it had to do, well, the request came from the support for the Great Redwood Trail and private property owners, but I cannot answer those questions. I mean, fully, and I cannot.
Yeah.
So we can just pull it. Is that can we do that? And just get back to it at another time.
Yes.
Would that make everyone more comfortable?
Thank you.
Is everyone in agreement to that?
That's fine.
Do I need to do a vote? City manager?
I think just a consensus that it'll be brought back in.
Okay, thank you. And Did anyone in the public want to speak to that before I move on? Okay, and now, item number 4, confirmation of appointment of Sergeant Landry.
I sure love 3 Painter Street. I just wanted to pull this off the consent calendar, just because I thought it needed to be off the consent calendar. Corporal Landry is a fantastic asset to our community. We really have enjoyed her. My daughter and my grandson went down to the bicycle safety rodeo that they had at the school a little while ago. It was Corporal Landry who was leading that with the kids. A lot of community involvement, which I really appreciate. Not that other officers aren't doing that as well, but it is tremendous. And we really appreciate her service to the community as an outstanding officer who's been with us in 2018, who graduated from the College of the Redwoods, who then got a promotion in 2021. And I know this because I read the article about you that North Coast Journal had as an example to her daughter. And I just think that's absolutely fantastic. And I just wanted to say she has earned this on her own merits, by her own work at all times. The second thing I'd like to say is she's a woman, and I love that because she's kicking butt. And so far, I have not found any references to any other woman police chief in Humboldt County. So that is particularly notable. And I, again, just thought it needed to be off the consent calendar because I think it's awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
I mean,
Public?
full agreement.
Yeah.
They share this, very, very.
We're all here.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Right. We are, thank you for pulling it just to make those points, because, it is nice to have it fleshed out. It's really nice to have it said, and so I appreciate that, and we all appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So is there anyone else who needs any questions, any emails, any? Okay, then I think we can. Kevin, I'm sorry, did you have your?
No, I.
Oh, you- okay.
Screen, see if anybody.
Then, can I have a motion to accept item 4, confirmation of appointment of Sergeant Landry to the interim police chief?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0. We will move on to reports and staff communications, city manager and staff updates, page 62 in our packet, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes and members of the council. So the Eel River Trail project is underway. The contractor is down at the site doing some clearance work. So we're happy to see that the project is underway. For our water capital improvement project, the contractor has kind of revised their starting date now tentatively to January of 2025. So there will be no major construction on that particular project for the calendar year 2024. However, there will be some minor work, relatively small work that Randy's working on with them to kind of get before the rainy season is upon us. And beyond that, staff has submitted the reports for the council's consideration, and we're happy to answer any questions the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, city manager. Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Councilman Woodall?
Kyle, I was just wondering when we're gonna look into the bollards. I had mentioned that maybe a while back.
Yeah, it's on a to-do list. What we would need to do is hire an engineer to do the site prelim, and so we could probably get somebody on board for that relatively quickly and move forward.
It'd be great to have those before Wildwood Days next year.
Yes, but are we talking, I might have asked you this and I might not remember. Are we gonna have the bollards that pull up from underground, or are we gonna buy the movable ones?
I don't know. I suspect the ones that you pull up out of the ground are significantly more costly.
Okay.
You'd have to excavate
Yeah,
significantly deeper, and then you also have utility conflicts associated with that. So it would probably be significantly cheaper to do the ones that you would carry onto site and install. In the end, those might be the only feasible options, but again, an engineer would have to look at that.
oh, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Hall.
No question.
Councilmember Wilson. Are there any member of the public that has a question? Any emails? Okay, then I will say thank you for that report. Thank you, staff, for everything you've done. We appreciate you all. I'm really glad you're part of Rio Dell. And now we will move on to special call-outs. Number 1. Discuss possible ordinance change banning the sale, provision, or distribution of nitrous oxide within the city limits. Page 68 in our packets. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Dorrance, members of the council. So this is just a preliminary discussion, as the council's aware. To make any ordinance change is kind of a two-step process. An ordinance would be introduced for a first reading and then reintroduced for a second reading prior to adoption. This is simply a conversational item for the council to consider. There has been, a push and a request from our neighbors in Eureka to have all of the governing bodies in Humboldt County consider a nitrous oxide ban for the sale of nitrous oxide within the various jurisdictions areas, including the county. And this follows a tragic May 22nd, 2024 fatal accident in which nitrous oxide allegedly played a significant role in the death of a pedestrian in the city of Eureka. So we are just simply, staff is relaying the message and the request. I know that in Eureka, they passed a resolution to pursue this nitrous oxide ban. And so the staff from Eureka is just following through the direction from their governing body to see if the others would be interested in pursuing this item. So attached to the agenda is the city of Eureka's draft ordinance, and that's as of July 29th of this year. Obviously, our ordinance would be considered by our own legal counsel, but would most likely largely be a copy of Eureka's ordinance. So there's no question that this substance is abused in the community. It does, however, have legitimate uses, particularly medical uses, for which there would be an exemption in Eureka's ban. And then there are, other ways of using it legitimately, whipping cream, so on and so forth. And so one thing that's not clear to me, in particular, when I review the ordinance, is what happens with online sales, where somebody's ordering this on Amazon or something along those lines. Whether that would be even possible to enforce a ban, or possible to enact a ban, or the practicalities of actually enforcing a ban of that nature is really beyond the scope of the city. So certainly, I think there are some legitimate questions about it, but it's ultimately, placed before the council for the consideration of this council, whether this is something you would want to pursue or. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, can you speak to the problem in Rio Dell?
I will speak on it.
Okay.
So I have a conviction for nitrous oxide DUI. I did use like 100 of them in an hour for driving down the road in Rio Dell. So it is an issue here. I'm no longer seeing the small little cartridges that you see in whipped cream. They're selling giant, like bigger than that water bottle size tanks of it in our stores here locally. I'm finding them on the streets, out front of drug houses where kids could easily pick them up, and I don't even know how they get it out of there, but so it is a problem here in Rio Dell. I think the safety of our youth, we're a small town with lots of kids out on bikes. I think that's something to take into consideration. I'm for the ban.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I was just gonna say, I got real sick of the litter associated. I mean, even the tiny cartridges, like that's what the most common litter I've ever seen down at the river are just like these piles of these things. And I've seen the big ones with these, it's wild what people do. As long as I can still have whipping cream on everything. I mean, that is important, but no, I do think, anyway, no, in all seriousness, it's a problem here, yeah.
Councilmember Wilson?
I see it's a problem if they're using, the only thing I run across in the past was the bullets. But if they're doing this bigger stuff, that's we need to definitely. That's definitely, where they sell,
PJ
where,
Liquors.
the next one. Yeah, you need to look into it, see.
Councilmember Orr?
And I'm all for it, especially the auto size ones that you're talking about on the streets.
Is E&J selling the bigger ones or just the whippets?
They've sold the smaller ones over the course of the years. Just recently have they started selling the canisters.
Is there an age limit? Right now, it's not illegal, but is there an age limit for somebody buying?
I don't know off the top of my head.
They're prohibited from selling to anybody under the age of 18. They're prohibited from selling to anybody under the age of 18.
No, I agree. I've seen it all over town and we need to do something about it.
So it sounds like the consensus of the council that we investigate and develop an ordinance by staff and bring it back.
And I would be curious about the online, you know, what you said about how does this impact purchasing online? I did see a hand raised.
I'm sorry, Alice.
That's right. So is the problem with something the size of the canister sitting in front of Frank, is that the explosion? Is that what, the reason I ask is I was getting ready, I was on 101 heading south, I was getting off at the exit here in Rio Dell, and there was this tremendous explosion. I thought my tire blew out, but my tire was fine, and it was right along, it was on the back side of the Bellevue houses, the Bellevue houses. And I couldn't even imagine what it was. It was a huge explosion. And this was about 3 months ago. And I looked everywhere. I went out and down the streets. I just couldn't imagine what it was. And not till right now did I think of what it might have been.
We've been having these explosions that people hear over the years before these large canisters of nitrogen were concentrated. I've never heard of the canisters exploding. I'm sure it is a possibility. It's compressed, but I don't know if the explosion you heard was from nitrous. Like people, rednecks make things all the time. Terrorize, called, you know, that's.
I just thought I'd mention it because it was so huge that I just couldn't even imagine what it was.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with my car. Yeah, I just couldn't imagine what it was.
Could have been a transformer, because 3 months ago, I was riding my bike. I'm out on Edwards, I'm coming up.
In front of my house.
Yeah, in front of your house. And it was just about 3 months ago, I think. So it could have been that, but I don't know. But,
On first.
216.
So it wasn't anywhere near, this one was,
all over there.
yeah, this one was right, I was getting off on the exit.
So,
And it would have been, it was coming from the trees, so I couldn't see exactly because there's houses, backyards on the other side of the trees. But I couldn't imagine what would be so strong.
Well, are there any other comments, any emails, any text? Hand raised, any, oh, absolutely.
I'd like to chime in on everything. I actually did some research on the nitrous oxide stuff as the county was looking at possibly doing a nitrous oxide ban. And it is added onto their legislative platform that they want to do some kind of ordinance or they're supportive of that. The problem with the laws that they have on the books is there's no enforcement. They're supposed to take a log when they sell it to someone who is over 18. They're supposed to do a log and require identification and all these things. None of that's happening, of course. And that's the problem. Who's going to enforce it and how much is it going to cost? I think the principle of having a sales ban, even though you really can't do anything about online sales, I think that is a worthy principle to have for Rio Dell and for Humboldt County, that this is not an acceptable thing. I wouldn't expect it to ban all access to it, but it could certainly help greatly. And I know that other communities are looking at doing the exact same thing, so we wouldn't be an outlier, which would be nice. But it's definitely a county priority, and I had no idea until I started looking into this, how huge of a problem it is. You just don't even know. So I would encourage us to continue looking at it, as it sounds like we're going to, and then we'll try to work through, as Eureka will and everywhere else, the issues with enforcement and all those various problems.
Thank you. And we will close that item and move on to item 2, spay and neuter voucher program, page 72 in our packets. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes, members of the city council. City staff has developed a proposal to utilize funds from our spay and neuter fund to implement a spay and neuter voucher program for Rio Dell residents. The report will outline the program's details, including funding, partnerships, and operational procedures. So the spay and neuter fund was historically funded through the animal license and control fees. However, recently it has relied solely on interest earned on city investments. The current balance is about $3,400. Staff proposes to reestablish funding through the animal license and control fees, anticipating annual contributions of approximately $2,500 based on our recent historical averages. Previously, I believe the city used to hold spay and neuter clinics back in the day. Those have ceased to occur. So the spay and neuter voucher program, the new one, aims to reduce the pet population in Rio Dell by providing financial assistance to residents for sterilizing their animals, with the idea being that our focus has been on animal care. Once animals are taken into custody of the city, and so we have a contract with Miranda's Rescue to do that. This program will be coordinated with the Rio Dell Community Resource Center to distribute the vouchers to those in need here in Rio Dell. So the program will partner with the Rio Dell Community Resources Center to distribute spay and neuter vouchers to residents. Vouchers can be redeemed at Critters Without Litters, set up through the nonprofit Humboldt Humane Program, offering low-cost sterilization services at their Fernbridge Drive address. The city would directly reimburse Critters Without Litters for voucher redemptions up to the maximum allocated amount, currently $3,400. Voucher values vary by animal type and size and based on the capacity of Critters Without Litters to conduct these operations. So the cost would range from $75 for male cats to up to $350 for female dogs. Again, 65-pound weight limit because they don't have the equipment to operate on dogs, so over that weight range at this point in time. So Critters About Litters is open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and can typically accommodate up to 35 procedures daily. So the program will utilize the $3,400 balance currently in the spay and neuter fund, and rely on approximately $2,500 annual revenue to continue this program. Obviously, the more animals that we get licensed and revenue into this program, the more we could work on the upstream problem of pet overpopulation, of pet, people not taking care of pets because there are too many of them. And so the number of vouchers issued obviously will be determined by available funding, and we could report back to the council on kind of this initial tranche of $3,400, how effective it was, how many cats versus dogs, that sort of thing. So staff is recommending that the council approve implementing the spay and neuter voucher program outlined in this report. The program will help reduce the pet population and address related issues, contributing to the community's overall well-being. And I do want to specifically point out Mayor Pro Tem Carter, who's been, advocacy and pushing for this and helping to coordinate with Critters About Litters, the humane group, for this program. So with that, I'll return it back to you.
Thank you very much. Good.
You know I got something to say. I really just want to say that this is such a big deal because it is so different than how municipalities have historically handled stuff. I do believe that animal shelters are important and necessary, but I also think that they are kind of a Band-Aid solution and not a long-term solution. And I think that if we can get in as a city and said, I know we contract with the animal shelter, but I think that providing financial assistance for spaying and neutering pets instead of just taking them to a shelter is going to be a major boon to our community, and what I hope to be an example that Rio Dell did first, that worked wonderfully, and that we can then be an example for other surrounding communities that maybe want to do the same thing, because it really is a way more viable long-term solution to help people spay and neuter their pets than it is to simply take them to the shelter and hope for the best. And like I said, shelters are important and necessary, but it's a Band-Aid solution, and this is an actual long-term solution. Sarah Reback at our Community Resource Center has a very, very deep and thorough knowledge of the members of this community, and I think that she will do a fantastic job of making sure that these vouchers get into the hands of the people who actually need them, and not the hands of people who are simply lazy and don't feel like it, right? And there is a great need in this town. Anybody who's ever had a garden in Rio Dell knows how great it is to have full feral cat poo. So I think it's important for the animals, and I think it's also important for the city, because we're gonna do this first and be an example to surrounding communities of a city who tried to solve the problem instead of just band-aid it. So I am very proud of us for this. I think this is going to be great. And I look forward to running fundraising activities for this kind of stuff, telling my family I want for Christmas them to donate to our fund, things like this. We're going to get more than $2,500 a year in that fund. That's me. Thank you. Thank you, Alice. And I just want to thank you. Have been in the spay neuter voucher program for so long, and it's because of people like you that I have worked with in the past that I have looked up to, and you have helped me. And I think it's really important for a city and a municipality to kind of step up and try to help the problem. So thank you.
What I wanted to do first, but COVID interrupted.
Yes.
Was to have not a spay and neuter ordinance, but a no breeding ordinance. A no breeding ordinance, because it was a matter of health and safety to have dogs unfixed on the streets. You don't want to interfere when they got breeding on the brain. You don't want to interfere with their plans. And so it's and so it is a matter of health and safety to kids and other dogs and cats and everybody else. But that was the plan. But then COVID happened and we all got sidetracked. We couldn't have a meeting. We were going to have a meeting. And Mary, I think, was Mary and the former chief, the one is now in Arcata, or at the university. But that's what our plan was. And then after that, it would, and the plan was to show everybody, we are the first. Look how we got our proverbial something together. And we've been able to do this, and then spay and neuter the vouchers would come naturally. And everybody would want to do that. If they needed to get everything fixed, well, no problem. If we can come up with some help with cost, because it was so expensive. But now thanks to Humboldt Humane.
Yes.
And and the two clinics there on Myrtle Avenue and the one in Burbridge, between those two, I mean, we can do it.
Well, and I'll also say, we finally don't have to drive all the way to Myrtletown. For this part of the River Valley, it's very important and a very big deal that we have our own little spay neuter clinic here. And look, I could hijack this meeting. I'm not going to. Alice, thank you so much for being here to support.
One more thing, and that is the landlords. Landlords have got to quit saying no pets, no pets, no pets. If we could do something to encourage landlords to say, if your pets are fixed, they are good citizens, probably better than your kids. And they should be within reason accepted into housing. That's a big problem. You don't think it's a big problem, but it is a big problem.
We gotta get coffee sometime, Alice.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Alice.
Well, despite removing cat poop from the neighborhood, taking away 50% of my dog's diet, I'm all for this.
They're probably all coming from my house too.
I can close enough. Councilmember Wilson?
Just a question, it said that one time the fund relied on the license fees for this, did that go away for some reason? It says the only way it's funded now is through interest, but at one point it was funded through license fees, and now we're going back to funding through the license fees.
Yes, I think it ended up getting rolled into the general fund, and part of that was, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but to help offset the costs for the contract with Miranda's Rescue for animal care, which the city spends either $1,200 or $1,900 a month for that particular contract, which is fairly expensive. So it has helped offset that cost, but.
Are we, we're still doing the contract with Miranda, but
Yeah.
All right, I just want clarification. I'm for. I know that I know I see a lot of stuff with animals on the being an issue. So if we can reduce it, this will reduce it, that would be good.
Okay, and I agree. I think that it should be, I think also that, and this will be coming up very soon, we should start enforcing our laws, our ordinances regarding dogs. We should find the people whose dogs are loose, but that's gonna all come up soon. Not today's topic. But I think we can fund this with by other means too, that are already on the books, that if we just do it, we could be funding things. So anyway, I am absolutely 100% am behind this. Do we need to do a vote to approve the spay and neuter, city manager?
Yes, so the recommended action would be to approve the program as proposed, or the council would like to add modifications for staff to incorporate. And then again, page 74 is an example of the application for the state for voucher.
Thank you. Are there any modifications anyone feels are necessary at this time? Then is there a motion to approve?
I would love to make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion carries 5-0. On to ordinances. Second reading by title only and adoption of ordinance number 405, 2024, amending the Rio Dell Municipal Code to amend chapter 15.05, construction codes to establish construction activity, noise regulations, and chapter 2.60, planning commission regulations of the Rio Dell Municipal Code to elect the chair and vice chair on a biannual basis. Page 75 in our packets.
Thank you, Mayor Garza, members of the council. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our community development director, Kevin Caldwell.
Mayor Garnes, members of the council, this item was initially presented at your August 6th meeting. As you indicated, there's actually two components of this ordinance. One has to do with construction noise, the other has to do with a minor amendment to the appointment of the chair and the vice chair of the planning commission. The discussion at the August 6th meeting revolved around the construction noise recommendations. It was brought up and suggested that we may be too limiting on the recommendation. The original recommendation was from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And it was brought up that many homeowners who work till 5 may have projects ongoing and would need more time to work on those projects. Based on that discussion, staff actually recommended that the construction hours be from 7 a.m. to dusk, 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday. And that was generally supported by the council. And reviewing some other jurisdictions, ordinances regarding construction noise, I could not find one jurisdiction that actually referred to dusk. And the dusk reference may be subjective and difficult to enforce if necessary. So we actually came up with a couple different options, basically along the same lines of the council's direction. Option one, and on page 76 of your packet at the bottom, option one would be 7 to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday. Option two identified is 7 to 8 p.m., Monday through Saturdays, Sundays and holidays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Of course, these are just recommendations. Again, we believe, staff believes that option number one was closely reflects what the council discussed at the August 6th meeting. With that, I will answer any questions, open any suggestions, and put it in the hands of the council.
Thank you. Councilmember Woodall.
On the one that says 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, you know what's strange about that, even though it's the same time? Somebody in the summertime is going to think 8 isn't the right time. It's still light, it doesn't get dark until 9. But 8 o'clock in the wintertime, it gets dark at 4. I don't know, I might be aggravated at somebody. I mean, that's just my feeling on that. Let's see. You can't do it you can't have 2 different times for when it's getting dark later.
That's actually, yeah, actually up to the council. If the council would like to do that, we could maybe break it down during daylight savings periods and non-daylight savings period. And I should know off the top of my head when daylight savings starts, is it June 22nd? But that's certainly not.
I mean, that's just, that's just my thought. That's their thought. Oh, and that's all I have. Okay.
I hear what you're saying. I do think, I'm just gonna split hairs. I think that option one is more simple, less confusing. So there's that. But either way, I agree, 8 p.m. feels later in the winter.
And I should point out that the only time we hear complaints is typically when we've got a larger project. It's not when your next door neighbor is doing something. The latest complaint we got had to do with the PG&E and the underground and the utility lines, where apparently a couple of days they actually started before 7 a.m. And that generated a couple phone calls. So it's not something we come across hardly at all.
I'm okay with breaking it down too. I just wasn't sure if it'd be way more difficult to enforce or just confuse people, but yeah, whatever. That's my thought.
Yeah, I actually want to say I appreciate the work you did on this. And either option is great for me. I think breaking it down by daylight savings gets a little convoluted because it seems a little too much. It's getting dark at 4:30. That doesn't mean you're going to bed at 4:30 just because it's getting dark earlier. So, and most people, once it gets dark out there, unless it is a bigger project, aren't going to work in the dark. So I think just the first one works. If you want a Sunday later start for a day of rest or whatever, that's fine too. But yeah, I would stick with one of those two. And again, thank you for working on that.
Councilmember Wilson?
I'm good with the modification. Okay,
You give us one in
You want-
particular, I mean, I'm just asking.
you want to comment?
No, I just didn't know if there was one or the other you preferred or breaking it up into.
Whichever works better for the city, if you. I don't want to make it into something that's not, by making it too complicated. Either one.
And I wasn't here, I kind of. I would probably throw Sunday and holidays out completely because I don't want anyone banging on things on Sundays and holidays, but that's just me. I do understand, what Councilmember Woodall's saying. But I believe that people probably will stop when it gets dark, but that doesn't mean they will. They could just put up a big light and keep going. So, I mean, I'm willing to discuss that because I don't think people are stupid. So I think that people can understand if you say these are your regulations, someone complains, when you explain the regulations, they should be able to work with it. But, you know, that's just me, I think. I don't think an extra sentence is gonna like blow people's minds and they can't do it. They can't do it because there's an extra sentence saying, you know, in daylight saving time, you can't.
Do we know what times these people were complaining about?
It sounds like it was morning times, like
Morning?
early morning.
Yeah.
People get shut
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's I think
6:30.
probably most.
Yeah, apparently they were actually starting activities at 6:30,
They added too much.
and that's pretty darn early.
yeah. Anyone in public want to make a comment on this? Yes, I thought I'm here.
You knew I would. It's definitely better than it was. Thank you for the work that you've done on that. And between the two options on the hours, either or, you really, there's no objection to having Sunday or holidays have a little bit of a reduced hours. That's pretty common for sound ordinances. The only issue I would have with it is, we don't get a lot of complaints right now because there isn't a sound ordinance. If neighbors were having a fight, this will give them an opportunity to bug the heck out of each other. Especially where it says no construction activity. Construction activity shall include any physical activity, including those identified on the property outside of those time limits. So a reasonable person would be fine with this. An unreasonable person in a neighbor fight, it's gonna have a little bit of room. I did a little bit of looking on different noise ordinances, and I found what I really liked out of the city of Galt that had some good language. Let me give my goodness a little bit of these. For an exemption, because projects don't end on time. Anybody who's done a project knows they rarely end on time. So they have a different approach. They have a noise ordinance for Galt, and then they have exemptions from the noise ordinance for construction noise, which I thought was an interesting approach. So they have, and their hours are different. They're defining it as 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for their area. But the part that I like that I highlighted on the handout is the exemption. It says, provided, however, when an unforeseen or unavoidable condition occurs during a construction project and the nature of the project necessitates that work in progress be continued until a specified phase is completed, the contractor or owner shall be allowed to continue work after 8 p.m. and to operate machinery and equipment necessary until completion of the specific work in progress can be brought to conclusion under conditions which will not jeopardize inspection acceptance or create undue financial hardships for the contractor or the owner. So there's a little bit of a wiggle room if 8 PM comes and you're still in the middle of doing whatever you're doing. They also had an interesting one. They have an exemption specifically for pouring concrete during the hot months that starts at 5 AM. If you want to move to Galt, you should probably know that. But then the other language they had for maintenance to residential properties, I kind of like, because it was just, it's an exemption to the noise ordinance. Noise sources associated with maintenance to residential area property, provided that activities take place between the hours of, and then they have their hours. That is just a straight up exemption. Noise associated with maintenance to residential area property, provided it's within that time period. That also can help avoid some neighbor fights. But anyway, it's much better than it was. Thank you.
Does anyone want to take that?
Mayor Ernst, if I may, if the council members would turn to page 77, just about the middle of the page, subsection 3A. We do have an exception. It basically says emergency work performed pursuant to written authorization by the city manager, community development director, or the building official. So if there are situations that do occur, we could actually handle that through that language here. I do like some of the language you suggested regarding regular maintenance. I think they're probably talking about lawnmowers, in terms of that type of stuff. We could either revisit that, bring it back, or we could adopt it as it is, whatever your council decides.
I'm fine with that. So again, with the daylight savings thing, I caution against it because someday we hope to get our heads out of our and get rid of daylight savings tonight, and then we'll be back here again. So.
Councilmember Wilson? Okay.
I'm okay with it, Alex.
You're okay. Okay, well, I'm about option 2.
That's fine by me, fine by me.
So, I don't know how to, Brandon? I don't know how to ask that option without making the motion myself. How would I phrase which one we want to do?
Well, one of the council members may make a motion to
Pick one of the two.
to adopt either option 1 or 2, and then we can vote on it. Knowing that there's maybe some division amongst the council, it happens all the time, it's not a big deal. So whoever wants to make a motion first.
I move to approve or adopt ordinance 405/2024, amending the municipal code with option 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We vote. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item 2, second reading by title only and adoption of ordinance number 406/2024, amending chapter 13.10 sewer rates and regulations, section 13.10.170, 13.10.210, 13.10.220, and 13.10.467 of the Rio Dell Municipal Code. Page 84 in our packets, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes, members of the council. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our wastewater superintendent, Ms. Sunshine Kelly.
Good evening, Mayor Garn and members of the City Council. As provided in the council meeting of July 16th of this year, staff presented a need for clarifying language in the City of Rio Dell's Municipal Code Chapter 1310 sewer rates and regulations. Presented on August 6th was the first reading by title only ordinance number 406/2024, amending Chapter 13.10 sewer rates and regulations. The council opened for public hearing and deliberated with consideration of approval and adoption for tonight's meeting after the second reading by title only ordinance number 406/2024, amending Chapter 13.10 sewer rates and regulations, sections 13.10.170, 13.10.210, 13.10.220, and 13.10.467. Page 84 of your packet tonight. I'm eager to answer any questions the council may have at this time.
Councilmember Woodall? No. Councilmember Wilson, Mayor Pro Tem,
Questions?
Councilmember Orr.
No question.
Anyone in the public? Any emails? Hand raised? Then I'm assuming we are ready for a vote. Is there a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 406-2024?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We vote, motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. And now we'll come to council reports and communications. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I, since our last meeting, attended a school board meeting and a fire district meeting. They were wrapping up on Wildwood days. They did pretty well. They, had a good fundraiser. So, good for them. Tomorrow, we have a nuisance advisory committee meeting right here in the council chambers at 3 p.m. And I think I will see you all before any of my next meetings. So I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Orr.
Take whatever you call it. HCOG meeting last week, couple things I wanted to pass on. The Regional Climate Action Plan is now live on their site, the HCOG site. September 30th through October 6th is the week without driving. Help us think about those who can't drive, can't afford to drive, or unable to drive. September 21st and 22nd, the Arcade Fair, I believe it was, the HTA, the Ride Humboldt campaign is kicking off. And the Transit Authority is going through a fare change right now. It's not so much about increasing, from what I understand, as it is about kind of making it a little bit easier to understand and work with. If you have any questions on that, the HTA.org in the news column, it shows the new fare structure. And last, the hydrogen bus that we are getting is expected in December. It'll run down to Mendocino and back. It's the first of its kind in the US, and they're very anxious to see how it works out here.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
Oh, there's a RCEA meeting Thursday. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilmember Woodall.
I was wondering if on the next agenda, we could, but from the beautification walkability committee, we looked at doing something in the Triangle Park. And I don't know, Jenny actually thought that I said we have to bring it before us first. She's not doing anything. Not be okay, but we need to bring that before you because it's from our committee. So if I can get that on the next.
Everyone agree?
And
Yes.
and it's just that she's the one, God bless her, that takes care of.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, it takes her a lot of time. And so she came to us and asked if she could make a few different changes that will alleviate some of the work for her. And she said that's why she's not going to do it. Oh, God, we need her to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. And well, you gave away all the HTA information.
Except for the part that you need.
That's the HTA,
Yeah,
HTA version, yeah. But, HCOG on last week appointed me as to the Great Redwood Trail Board. Thank you for the nomination. Councilmember Orr nominated me and the board, the HCOG board approved the appointment. So now Rio Dell is at the table. So that's really great, really good. And I appreciate that. On the 29th, I will be manning the table at the fair for the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group. And we will have information on tsunamis and earthquake safety. Not directly about them, but how things work and what you should do to keep yourselves and your families safe. And I think that is about all that I have to put out. So. There a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn, and I'm sure there's a second somewhere in there. We have a motion and a second. We will adjourn until September 3rd at 6 p.m.